You think you know the horrors of slavery. You've heard of the Atlantic slave trade, 12 million lives destroyed, families torn apart, cultures erased. But what if I told you that was just a fraction of the story? What if there was a slave trade that lasted not 400 years, but 1,400, that enslaved not just millions, but erased entire civilizations? This is the hidden history of the Islamic slave trade and the cultural genocide that followed. It's been buried, erased, and deliberately forgotten. Today, we're going to remember. Let's start in Central Asia, once home to thriving Buddhist civilizations, monasteries, libraries, universities, places of peace, science, and enlightenment. Gone. Take Nalanda University, the Oxford of the ancient world. In 1193 CE, it was burned to the ground by Islamic invaders. The library, 9 million books. It burned for 6 months. Monks were burned alive trying to save sacred manuscripts. Archaeologists found layers of ash feet deep mixed with human remains. The knowledge of centuries gone. Bihar alone had dozens of monasteries, thousands of monks. By 1200 CE 0, Afghanistan was a Buddhist kingdom for 1,000 years. Today, the only trace is the rubble of the Bamiyan Buddhas, blown apart in 2001. Where did they go? Some fled to Tibet, some converted, most died. This wasn't conquest. It was erasure. Cultural genocide on a scale almost impossible to imagine. We're worrying about losing digital data. Imagine losing your entire civilization. Language, gone. Art, literature, science, vanished. The alphabet, forbiddance, your faith, outlawed, your scholars, executed. It's not hypothetical. It happened. Christianity, Judaism, Zoroastrianism, Hinduism all suffered under Islamic empires. But it was the economic engine behind this oppression that kept it running for centuries. Slavery, children stolen, boys castrated, girls sold into sexual slavery. This wasn't random cruelty. It was industrialized, organized, state-sponsored. And it lasted 1,400 years. Let's talk about the part history really hides: the fate of women. In the Ottoman Empire alone, 1.5 million women were enslaved. And that's just one empire. The real number across all Islamic empires, historians can't even calculate it. This was systematic rape, state policy, regulated by law, organized by bureaucracy, documented in archives. The Crimean port of Kaffa became the medieval capital of human trafficking. 20,000 women passed through it every year. That's 55 women every single day. Stripped, inspected, sorted by ethnicity. Priced like cattle, Slavic women fetched the highest prices. Circassians were considered premium. African women were sold cheap. Girls aged 14 to 16 were the most valuable. British naval officers wrote horrific reports. One said, "She looked at me as if I might save her. I was armed. I did nothing." At Istanbul's Topkapi Palace, 2,000 women were kept in the Sultan's harem. Not countersans. Slaves. Bought. Raped. Discarded. Records exist. Received 12 Circassian girls, ages 13 to 16, good health, intact. Official purchase orders for rape victims. Circassian beauty became a curse. Whole communities faced an impossible choice: sell their daughters into slavery, or have them stolen. Many chose a third way. They mutilated their own daughters, scarred their faces. To protect them. One folk song still survives: "My daughter, forgive the knife in my hand. The scar I give you is a mother's love." Entire villages held scarification ceremonies to protect their girls. That was the world they lived in. When Russia conquered Circassia in 1864, the people were so traumatized by centuries of raids. They welcomed the invaders, because the invaders would stop the slave trade. That's how bad it was. Baghdad, 1258. The Mongols sacked the city. Inside the caliph's palace, they find 700 women in the harem. Not wives. Slaves. Their names aren't recorded. The Mongol chronicles simply say, they met the fate of conquered women, mass rape, mass murder, followed by silence. The archaeological site shows a mass grave. All women, all showing signs of violent death. They weren't collateral damage. They were evidence. Evidence someone tried to bury. This isn't conspiracy. It's documented. Ottoman archives, British reports. French diplomatic letters, missionary accounts. So why don't we know? Follow the money. Middle Eastern governments fund university departments. $10 billion in donations from Saudi Arabia alone. You want that funding? You don't teach this history. I reviewed the top 50 American universities. 318 courses on Atlantic slavery. Courses on Islamic slavery. 3. None required. Academics who study this. Silence. Threatened. Careers destroyed. One historian's book was labeled Islamophobic for quoting Islamic sources. She now teaches high school and can't mention her research. Even geneticists can't speak up. Satellite archaeology has mapped slave routes, mass graves, castration centers. Permits to excavate, denied. This isn't forgotten history. It's suppressed. Atlantic slavery left 42 million descendants. They remember. They demand justice. This system left none. Castrated men can't reproduce. Raped women bore children into slavery, or watched them killed. There's no diaspora to preserve memory. No museums. No monuments. Just ledgers. Receipts. Price lists. Even today, slavery continues. Saudi Arabia banned it in 1962. Mauritania in 1981. CNN filmed a slave auction in Libya. In 2017. Modern silence protects historical atrocities, because acknowledging the present means confronting the past. We built museums for the Holocaust, for Atlantic slavery, for the genocides in Rwanda, Armenia, Cambodia. But not for this. Why? Because oil money speaks louder than justice, because international diplomacy is more important than historical truth, because the victims left no descendants to speak for them. But you just heard their story. You can speak for them. This isn't just about history. It's about what else they've hidden, what else they've erased. You know now. And that knowledge is power. So use it.